Isaiah hated it. "I don't trust him." "I know how to handle him," she said. But when she arrived, the meeting wasn't what she expected. Thomas stood by the window, composed as always. "You look tired," he observed. "So do you," she replied. He gave a small smile. "This doesn't have to be ugly." "It already is." He turned toward her fully. "You embarrassed me, Marjorie." "My family, everything I represent. You willing to burn everything for a fantasy?" "It's not a fantasy." He stepped closer. "It is, and when it collapses, and it will, you'll want back in. I'm offering you dignity. Now." "At whose expense?" she responded. "At the expense of truth," he countered coolly. "Truth is flexible in court, you know." She felt the weight of his confidence. "You think I won't fight?" she asked. "I think," he said carefully, "you underestimate how fragile his position is." A chill slid down her spine. "What do you mean?" He didn't answer directly. "Sometimes protecting family requires unpleasant decisions." He walked past her toward the door. "Tomorrow's hearing will clarify everything." The door closed behind him. Margaret stood alone, heart hammering. She sensed danger. She drove straight to Isaiah's apartment. Lights off. Too dark. Her stomach dropped. She pounded on the door. No answer. She used her key. Inside, the place looked untouched, except for the scattered tables and chair near the kitchen, and the blood, just a smear. Not much, but enough. Her breath came in shallow bursts. She ran to the phone and dialed his number. It rang once, then connected. "Hello?" Not Isaiah, but a male voice, calm, official. "Who is this?" Margaret demanded. "Ma'am," the voice replied evenly. "This phone belongs to Mr. Isaiah Cole. He's currently being held for questioning." Her knees nearly buckled. "For what?" A pause. Then, "Assault." The word exploded in her skull. "That's impossible." "He was involved in an altercation earlier tonight. The alleged victim is at the hospital. You're welcome to contact legal counsel," the voice responded. "Arraignment is in the morning, tomorrow morning, the same morning as the custody hearing." Margaret hung up slowly. The room felt like it was closing in. Thomas's words echoed. "Sometimes protecting family requires unpleasant decisions." Her hands trembled as realization crystallized. This wasn't coincidence. This was orchestration. Isaiah wasn't just a liability. He was an obstacle that needed to be removed forthwith. Margaret looked at the smear of blood again. 1,000 emotions crashed through her. Guilt, rage, terror. This was no longer about scandal. This was about survival. For Isaiah, for herself. She grabbed her coat and headed for the door. If Thomas wanted a war, he was about to get one. But as she stepped into the freezing Chicago night, she didn't see the unmarked car parked half a block away. Engine running, watching, waiting. Inside that car, a familiar silhouette lifted a phone to his ear. "She's on the move," the voice said. A pause. Then, "Proceed." As Margaret raced toward destiny, the assault charge unveiled a web of fabricated evidence, but the real horror lurked deeper. Thomas's final gambit threatened not just custody, but Isaiah's very freedom, forcing a choice that could shatter their souls. Chicago, March 1989. The Cook County Courthouse loomed under a steel gray sky, wind whipping like fate's lash. Margaret stood rigid, her mind a whirlwind of dread and defiance, every nerve screaming as Isaiah faced arraignment for a crime she knew was phantom. Margaret stood outside, coat pulled tight, hair pinned back with surgical precision. The wind cut across the plaza, sharp and unrelenting, but she barely felt it. Inside, Isaiah was being processed, charged with felony assault. The alleged victim, Daniel Kessler, 38, investment consultant, no prior record. Margaret didn't recognize the name, but she recognized the pattern. Thomas Whitfield did not create chaos. He curated it. Margaret's psyche fractured. Guilt for dragging Isaiah into this abyss, rage at Thomas's godlike manipulations. The night before had blurred into frantic calls and favors long overdue. Margaret contacted a former charity board member whose husband was a defense attorney. Pride evaporated. She explained everything, not the affair or the romance, but the manipulation, the timing, the custody hearing, the arrest. By sunrise, Isaiah had counsel. That was the only victory so far. Inside the courthouse hallway, reporters hovered like vultures. Flashbulbs popped as Margaret stepped through security. "Mrs. Whitfield, do you believe Mr. Cole assaulted a business associate of your husband? Is this related to your divorce proceedings? Are your children safe?" Safe. The word struck like a blade. She said nothing. Silence had once been her prison. Now it was strategy.